A pleasant day to each and every one of you, and welcome to this last chapter of our discussion when it comes to science, technology, and society. So, for this particular discussion, we will simply be talking about the existence of the different weapons of mass destruction or the negative implication and that science and technology have when it comes to mankind. So when it comes to the overall view of this particular final term, okay, you observed here that we considered all of the applications of science and technology and their positive effects when it comes to man. We discussed here the significance of science and technology when it comes to the information age, on how it can solve the existence of climate crisis or climate change, then even the existence of food insecurity and even the presence of biotechnology. But in this particular part of our discussion, um, let's simply find or let's simply consider the possible negative implications of the existence of science and technology whenever it is being utilized by man. Okay? So let us remember that science and technology has two sides. Some of them are positive and some of them could have negative implications, just like what we are going to discuss for this particular lesson. So let me define first what are the weapons of mass destruction. Okay? So according to the United Nations, their definition that was provided last 1948, weapons of mass destruction are atomic explosive weapons, radioactive material weapons, lethal chemical and biological weapons, and any weapons developed in the future which may have characteristics comparable in destructive effects to those of the atomic bomb or other weapons mentioned above. So if this implicate the loss of lives and destruction of different infrastructures, they could now be considered as different weapons of mass destruction. Okay? And other than the definition that is provided by the United Nations, even here in the Philippines, we have our own definition for the weapons of mass destruction. And this actually mentioned on Senate Bill number 2449. It referred to weapons that are capable of a high order of destruction and are being used in such a manner as to create large numbers of casualties during a single event or incident. Okay? So some of the concepts that are actually related when it comes to the existence of weapons of mass destruction are the number of casualties or kung gaano karami yung masasaktan, kung gaano karami mga individuals sa mamamatay kapag nagkaroon dito ng isang phenomenon na related nga with the utilization of a weapon of mass destruction. Okay, so this actually filed under Senate Bill number 2449. Then, according to the FBI, they have newer definitions for the weapons of mass destruction. And ito rin yung naging reason kung bakit nga ba meron po tayo iba't ibang categories or types of weapons of mass destruction. Ito po yung ina-adapt natin pagdating po sa mga konsepto na pag-uusapan natin for this particular day. So what are those definitions, okay? So when we talk of the existence of weapons of mass destruction, it could be a destructive device such as explosive or incendiary bomb, rocket, or grenade. So when we talk of the term incendiary, those are any types of materials that can combust into flames or magkaroon po dito ng sunog or apoy, magkaroon po dito ng process known or chemical reaction known as the existence of combustion. Okay? Or maaari nga pong masunog. So yun po yung possible na examples po natin ng iba't ibang types ng weapons of mass destruction. So weapons of mass destruction could also be a weapon that is designed to cause death or serious injury through toxic or poisonous chemicals. Okay? So one of the examples for such is what was basically utilized during World War One. By the way, I would like to provide a general trigger warning, by the way, when it comes to our discussion for today, because some of the concepts and some of the images that we will be indicating or inciting in this particular discussion could be triggering for some of you, because we will simply be talking about death of people, and um, when it comes to that part, maybe some of you are not comfortable when it comes to that particular part of the discussion. So, trigger warning and apologies if there will be some images that you might take offense with regarding this particular discussion. Okay? Since pag-uusapan nga po natin dito ang mga mamamatay ng mga individuals or namatay ng mga individuals. Just like what was used, by the way, I'm going back to this part. Katulad na naman po ng ginamit na mga gases when it comes to the Holocaust that happened during World War I. Okay? The genocide that happened when it comes to the Jews nung World War I are related po pagdating dito sa second definition natin. So it is not only about the existence po ng mga bomba or existence dito ng mga pampasabog, kundi pati na rin po yung mga materials that can implicate um, changes or injuries pagdating po sa iba't ibang mga individuals na to. Okay? Visible man ito or cannot be seen. Then, another definition, according to FBI, weapons of mass destruction are weapons that contains biological agent or toxins. And these are any weapons that is designed to release dangerous levels of radiation or even radioactivity. So when it comes to the existence po ng definition na ito ng FBI, we are now adapting the concept ng iba't ibang classifications of the existence ng weapons of mass destruction. So we can categorize and we can classify them into four different types of weapons. There's now the presence of the biological weapons, or biological weapons is are now any type of weapons of mass destruction that utilized cellular or acellular agents. Gumagamit na po sila dito ng mga germs, gumagamit na po dito ng mga bacteria, gumagamit na po dito ng mga viruses, gumagamit na po dito ng mga toxins that are related when it comes to these living things. So biological weapons is defined as any of a number of disease-producing agents. Okay, nagdudulot po ito ng sakit that may be utilized as weapons against humans, animals, and plants. But most of the times, ito nga pa related with the existence of humans. Okay? Or it will implicate harm when it comes to us humans. Then the second type of weapons of mass destruction, they are known as the chemical weapons. So in the case of the chemical weapons, these are now the use of different types of organic or inorganic compounds na maaari nga po mag-implicate dito ng toxin kapag or maging poisonous po ito pagdating sa inhalation ng mga tao or kapag nagkaroon po ito ng contact pagdating sa mismo mga balat natin. It could be in the form of liquids, katulad na lamang po ng iba't ibang mga acids. If you're quite aware, some of the acid attacks that were done in India, some of the acid attacks that were done in Europe and in United States of America, those are examples po ng paggamit ng mga chemical weapons. Okay? Then, ganito kasi na when it comes to history, wala naman po talaga tayong mga masyado nagagamit ng mga chemical weapons until the advent of the World War I. And just like what I mentioned earlier, yung mga ginamit po na chemicals sa gas chambers that are utilized to eradicate a huge chunk of the Jewish population in Europe. Okay? Then, other than the existence po ng biological and chemical weapons, meron din po tayong tinatawag dito ng mga nuclear weapons. So, in the case of the nuclear weapons, these are now designed to release energy in an explosive manner. Okay? So, ito na po yung makilala natin ng mga atomic bomb. They are created through the existence of nuclear fission or ito po yung paghihiwalay ng mga components ng isang certain type of atom, kaya po ito ay nagre-release ng maraming energy, or it could be in the form of nuclear fusion that two atoms are now merging, then yung mga subatomic particles po nila, they are now decay and they are now releasing different types of radioactive materials. And lastly, it could also be a combination of both. So yung po yun sa mga examples po natin ng mga nuclear weapons. To cite some of the examples po nito, yung mga ginamit po, if you're quite aware of Oppenheimer, okay, of that particular movie that was utilized during World War II, yun naman po yung mga in-indicate po natin regarding the existence of the nuclear weapons. Okay? So, mapapansin po natin, World War I focused on the chemical weapons. World War II related with the nuclear weapons. Okay, so those are some of the things that were actually incited by this certain types of wars. Then there's also the existence of what we are calling as the radiological weapons, or these are now the weapons that use to disperse radioactive agents. So please take note, nuclear weapons, they are mostly considered as bombs. while the radiological weapons, they are now other types of radiologic materials. Nuclear weapons could release radiation, but radiologic weapons doesn't incite or hindi po sila dito sumasabog, okay? So, yun lang naman po yung pinagkaiba nilang dalawa. So, please, ano yung term dito? Huwag pong malito. Pwede din po sa dalawang to. Okay? So when we talk of radiological weapons, they disperse radioactive agents to inflict injury. It can cause contamination, damage, and even death to these particular individuals. So, in some case, ang ginagamit po dito are not the kind of bombs that were utilized when it comes to nuclear weapons, but rather they are now utilizing some forms of means para ma-disperse po yung mga radioactive contaminants na ito. Okay? So, nuclear weapons, most of them, they are releasing high energy materials, kaya po nagkakaroon dito ng pagsabog. While in the case of radiological weapons, they are now dispersing radioactive contaminants. Okay? Now, for this part of our discussion, bigyan po natin ng mabilis na pasada yung iba't ibang mga types po ng mga weapons of mass destruction. Okay? Let's consider kung ano nga ba yung mga implications sila, kung kailan nga ba sila possible na nagamit, kailan sila possible na magagamit, at ano nga ba yung mga um, disadvantages regarding the existence of this particular weapons of mass destruction. Okay? Now, let's begin with the existence of biological weapons. So, biological weapons of mass destruction are actually capable of causing death and are not capable of mass destruction in infrastructures, buildings, or even equipment. It has the potential for the start of a widespread pandemic, which is the difficulty of controlling diseases as it affect and changes the landscape of these different populations. Okay? So that's the thing when it comes to the existence of biological weapons. Ito po ay nag implicate ng sakit. Ito po ay nag implicate ng fatalities among human beings or among other individuals. So, maaari po itong matransfer through the existence of the following. So, it could actually be transferred through particle size, and its accuracy and precision, depending on the agent, may determine how it will be filtered, inhaled, or exhaled. Um, when it comes to biological sciences, especially pagdating po sa microbial mechanism of pathogenicity, um, when we had this particular discussion in microbiology, in my microbiology class, I indicated here that there are different means of contact kung paano nga ba napupunta yung sakit pagdating sa katawan natin. Some of these diseases, some of these particles may actually be present on the air that we breathe. Kaya po meron tayong mga tinatawag na mga airborne na mga sakit. Maaari po ito ma-transfer kapag ang isang individual ay meron sakit. Then, naging available sa mismong hangin yung mga contaminants or yung tinatawag din po natin ng mga germs. Okay? It could be the viruses, it could be the bacteria that are actually suspended in the air. Yun po yung maaari makahawa. And those are actually some of the reasons kung bakit nga rin po mabawal yung mga bata pagdating sa ospital. Or kung meron man pupunta mga bata, kailangan sila ay naka-face mask. Kasi maaari nga po sila maka-acquire dito ng mga infection that is basically present or microorganisms or cellular pathogens na available po pagdating sa hangin. Then meron din po tayong tinatawag dito na existence po ng droplets. Or halimbawa na lang po dito, kapag tayo nagsasalita, then meron na re-release na laway. Okay, so those are examples po ng mga droplets. Then meron din po tayong mga fomites. Fomites, these are now the types of agents na kapag napunta sila sa surface, then nahawakan mo yung mismong surface na yun, then naidikit mo sa katawan mo, yun na po yung contact regarding those particular types of materials na maaaring naglalaman nga dito ng disease-causing agents. So yun po yung mga possible means kung paano nga ba matatransfer ang sakit pagdating sa inyo. Then, maaari din naman po na ang biological weapons could survive dispersion by the weather or depende na lang po yun sa kung ano nga ba yung meteorological conditions na available do sa mga locations na to. Kasi there's a possibility na magdulot nga po ito ng sakit kapag tama yung weather condition para sa mismong sakit na to. Then, minsan din po nakadepende rin ito sa packaging for the weapon to remain active. Halimbawa na lang po dito, meron tayong mga tinatawag na mga vectors or kung paano nga ba nito transfer yung sakit from one individual to another. Halimbawa na lang po dito sa mga vectors na to, maaaring nandyan yung iba't ibang mga insekto. Nandyan yung lamok na maaring magpasa ng sakit mula sa isang tao papunta sa iba pang mga tao. O kaya naman maaring ito ay dahil sa langaw, dahil ito sa mga stink bugs, and other types of insects na maaari nga po maging vector pagdating sa mga sakit na to. So those are some of the examples po sa kung paano nga ba nade-deliver ang mga biological weapons at yung conditions din po pagdating sa iba't ibang mga sakit. Now, ano na nga po ba yung mga iba't ibang mga materials na ginagamit pagdating sa mga bagay na to? So, pinakauna na po dito yung existence po ng mga viruses. So, take note, viruses, they are not alive. Okay? Kasi ang viruses, wala po silang cells. And cells are the basic unit of all living things. So, walang cells ang viruses, they are not considered as living things. Kaya po ang tawag sa kanila ay mga acellular pathogens or acellular pathogens kasi wala nga po silang cells. So they require living cells to propagate. Hina-hijack po nila yung mga healthy cells na available sa katawan, then dun po sila nagpaparami. They are strongly dependent po dito sa mga cells na ito na tinatawag natin ng mga host. At yung mga viruses nga po sila yung mga parasite na papasok sa mismong cell, then i-hijack yung cell para makagawa ng mas marami pang viruses. And whenever these particular types of viruses are being created, maaari pong magkaroon nito ng negative implication to the lives of these particular individuals. Kaya po nagkakaroon tayo ng iba't ibang mga simptomas ng iba't ibang mga sakit. Okay? It's all because of the existence po ng mga acellular pathogens or ng mga parasites nito. So tandaan po natin, halimbawa na lang meron kayong trangkaso just like in my case. It is caused by a virus. Kaya hindi po ito magagamot ng antibiotic unless meron po kayo ditong mga antivirals na tinatawag din po natin ng mga vaccines. Kaya po yung mga gamot nakakatulong po ito na tanggalin yung mga simptomas ng sakit. At hindi po nito tinutulungan na patayin yung mismong virus. Kasi yung katawan po natin ang mismong papatay sa mga virus na to through our immune system. Tinutulungan lang ng mga gamot na nag-e-exist na mabawasan yung mga simptomas natin para matulungan yung immune system natin na tanggalin, puksain itong mga viruses na to. Okay? So, hindi po nagre-react ang mga viruses sa antibiotics, but rather they are just reacting to the different medications para mabawasan yung simptomas na available sa katawan natin. Okay? So, viruses po, they are not living. While in the case of the different types of bacteria naman po, they are considered as small free-living organisms mostly grown on solid or liquid culture media. Bacterial culture or bacterial structure consists of nucleus, cytoplasm, and cell membrane or nucleolus specifically, and its reproduction occurred through simple division. And these are the different diseases that produce that can often be treated with specific therapy and even the existence nga po ng antibiotics. So, in the case of the existence po ng mga bacteria, since sila nga po ay mga simple na mga living organisms, mabilis lang po sila magparami. And the number of bacteria na possible po na nag-exist sa ating mga kamay or sa surface po ng mukha natin ay sobrang dami na mas marami pa po sa population probably ng buong Luzon or ng buong Pilipinas. Ganun po sila karami kasi sobrang liliit nga lang po ng mga bacteria na to. So these different types of bacteria ay maaari po sila magdulot ng iba't ibang mga sakit. Halimbawa na lang yung kilala po natin na E. coli, Salmonella, all of them could cause food poisoning. Ang liliit na mga microorganisms na to pero maaari po sila magdulot ng mas malalaking mga pinsala pagdating sa katawan natin. An example of this bacteria ay tinatawag po natin na chlamydia. Ang chlamydia, that is one of the most common type of sexually transmitted infection na available in the world. Ang chlamydia, it is now an obligate intracellular parasite that are capable of producing their own energy source or not capable of producing their own energy source. Kaya po sila ay responsive pagdating po sa iba't ibang broad spectrum ng mga antibiotics. So nangangailangan po sila dito ng living cells for their particular reproduction kasi hina-hijack nga po nila itong mga lining ng mismong um, genitals or lining po ng epithelial or mga tissues na available po pagdating sa mga reproductive organs sa iba't ibang mga individuals. Kaya maaari po nga po itong mag-implicate ng sexually transmitted infections. Then there's also the presence of rickettsia, which is another type of bacteria na meron po sila mga metabolic enzymes and cell membranes na nag-utilize po ng oxygen na susceptible din po sa broad spectrum antibiotics but maaari po sila magdulot dito ng pinsala once again sa katawan po ng iba't ibang mga individuals. Then, meron din po tayong kinoconsider na existence po ng mga fungi or fungi. It's up to you po kung paano yung sila pronounce. Fungi, fungi, fungi. Those are examples po ng mga kamag-anak ng mga mushrooms. So, yung mga fungi, they are now considered as non-photosynthetic. Hindi po sila mga hayop, hindi rin po sila mga halaman, hindi rin po sila mga bacteria, but rather, these are now the types of organisms that can grow without oxygen and can draw nutrition from different sources. So, karamihan po ng mga fungi, they are free living pero meron pong mga fungi that are actually parasitic. Katulad na nga lang po ng ma-observe nyo po dito, there's actually an individual na meron pong oral thrush or meron po siyang candidiasis na ito po yung type ng yeast infection na nakukuha ng isang individual sa kanyang bibig o kaya naman po sa kanyang genital organ. So, maaari po itong magamot through the presence of antimicrobials. Maaari po ito magamot with the use of antibiotics din. Kaso nga lang po, for those individuals na merong halimbawa na lang po dito, candidiasis, maaari po na sila ay meron ng impaired na immune system. Kaya kinakailangan po nila ng tulong pagdating sa bagay na to. Okay? Now, ano pa nga ba yung iba't ibang mga conditions na related po pagdating dito? Isa po dun sa mga bagay na yun ay meron din po tayong mga microorganisms or mga bacteria na nagre-release naman ng toxins. Halimbawa na lang po dito yung toxin na nagdudulot ng tetanus or dahil po ito sa existence ng Clostridium tetani. So, ang tetanus po ito ay nanggaling sa bacteria. Okay? So, ito po mga toxins na to ay nire-release kapag sila ay dumadami o kaya naman po ay nagkakaroon ng impairment pagdating sa kanilang mismong cell membrane. Kapag na-release po yung mga toxins na to, ito na po yung nagiging dahilan kung bakit nga ba nagkakaroon ng tetano ang isang individual. Okay, so yung po yung ilan sa mga examples po natin ng iba't ibang mga biological weapons. So some of them also include the existence po ng smallpox or ito po ay galing na sa pox family ng mga viruses. Then there's the presence of anthrax na nanggaling naman po sa Bacillus anthracis. Then there's also the presence of brucellosis which is from the Brucella melitensis, Brucella abortus, Brucella suis, and Brucella canis na nanggaling naman po sa iba't ibang mga sources. Then, maaari din po dito magkaroon ng botulism or ito naman po yung possible na sakit na makukuha natin mula sa mga dilatang pagkain. Okay, they are actually from Clostridium botulinum and there's also the presence of Clostridium perfringens, okay, which is now related nga po pagdating dun sa toxins na maaari po natin makuha sa mismo sikmura natin. Pagdating po sa pagkain ng mga maduduming pagkain. So ilan po ito dun sa mga possible na mga biological weapons na magamit. Pero tandaan, unlike those different types of weapons that we mentioned kanina, yung tatlo po, ang case po ng biological weapons, sila po yung possible na mangyari in nature talaga. Okay? Or hindi po talaga siya nag-i-indicate na ginamit po siya as a weapon. But rather, these different types of disease-causing germs could be present. Okay? Maaari po sila maging present, maaari po nitong maapektuhan ng iba't iba mga individuals kahit na hindi po ito in-implicate ng iba pang mga humans. Okay, so maaari po tayo magkaroon ng sakit hindi dahil sa sinadya na magkaroon tayo ng sakit, but rather ito po yung nag-exist kasi talaga sa mismong nature or sa mismong environment natin. So that's the thing when it comes to the existence po ng biological weapons. Okay? Now, other than the existence po ng biological weapons, meron din po tayong tinatawag na mga chemical weapons. So in the case of the chemical weapons, they're actually classified based on their volatility or kung gaano nga ba sila katagal na nag-i-stay pagdating po dun sa isang specific na location. So meron po tayong tinatawag dito na persistent agent at non-persistent agent. So kapag sabi po natin na persistent agent, it is characterized with high boiling point, low volatility, and very slow dispersion or mabagal po ito na mag-disperse or hindi po kaagad natin to naaamoy or hindi po kaagad natin to mararamdaman. So, nagkakaroon po dito ng contact or inhalation hazard. It continuously produces threat in a long span of time after delivery. Or ito po yung problema pagdating sa mga volatile na mga substances na to. Or, sorry, non-volatile or low volatility na mga substances kasi matagal po siya nag-i-stay sa isang specific na lugar. Okay? So, halimbawa na lang po siguro dito, considering po, some analogy, okay? Isang pabango na hindi mo kaagad naaamoy yung kanyang scent, pero naghihintay pa ng ilang oras bago ma-develop yung mismong scent nito. Parang ganun po yung case pagdating kay low volatility ng mga chemical weapons. Okay? Then, yung mga non-persistent agent naman po, they evaporates quickly, disperses rapidly, and produces an immediate and short-lived hazard. They are released as airborne particles, liquids, or gases. So, ang case naman po nito, ito yung mabilisan na nare-release po kaagad yung epekto dito pagdating sa iba't ibang mga individuals. So, halimbawa na lang po dito yung mga ginagamit sa tear gas, for instance. Those are examples po ng mga non-persistent agent kasi once na ma-activate yung tear gas, lalabas kaagad dito yung gases, then magkakaroon po kaagad ng epekto pagdating sa iba't ibang mga individuals. Okay? So, ang chemical agents po can be delivered in consideration of its states and its forms. So, meron po tayong mga chemical agents na maaari po ma-deliver through ammunition, while some of them are actually designed to provide a container to effectively reach and affect the target area. Halimbawa na alam po dito, yung binigay ko example kanina regarding the existence po ng tear gas. Sila pa ay nasa loob ng isang canister. Then once i-open yung canister na yon, ibato yung mismong canister, magre-release ka agad dito ng tear gas. So yun po yung container nila. Then meron din po tayong iba't ibang mga chemical weapons katulad na lamang po ng mga arsenic materials or mga incendiary na mga materials nga po na kung ito man ay magdudulot ng pagkasunog, meron po ditong detonation na kinakailangan, ibabalibag yung mga materials na to, then after that, magkakaroon na nga po dito ng concern pagdating sa existence or release ng mga chemical weapons na to. Okay? Now, chemical weapons, nangangailangan po dito ng decontamination. So, isa po ito dun sa mga rules pagdating po sa existence ng chemical weapons. We cannot handle chemicals utilizing our own hands lang kasi nga po maaaring magkaroon po tayo dito ng epekto or maapektuhan po yung mismong katawan natin, yung mga kamay natin kapag hinawakan po or nagkaroon tayo ng contact sa kanila through our skin. So, meron po itong kinakailangan na processes bago po natin sila gamitin. Kaya nga po pagdating sa mga chemical laboratories, kapag nagkakaroon ng experimentation, you are actually required na magsuot ng mga protective gears for the eyes, for the mouth, for the nose, then for your body, and even for your hands. So yun lang po yung sa mga kinakailangan natin. Kasi ilan po sa mga chemical agents na to, kapag nga po persistent sila, matagal po sila bago mawala. So baka pala meron ditong acid na nasa table, then napunta dito yung kamay mo, after some time hindi mo napansin na dumikit pala yung acid, then naramdaman mo lang na unti-unti na nasusunog yung balat mo. Okay? Kasi nga po, meron tayong mga persistent na mga chemicals, hindi po kagad sila nawawala. So that's the reason why we need to do some decontamination pagdating po dito sa mga bagay na to. Okay? Now, other than the existence po nito mga bagay na to, chemical weapons could actually be divided into different types. So meron po tayong mga tinatawag na nerve agents or ito po yung mga highly toxic chemical agents that poison the nervous system and disrupt vital bodily functions. One of the examples po natin dito is the existence of the cyanide. Okay, na target na nga po nito ay ang mga nerves natin. Then, there's also the presence of blistering agents na ito naman po yung mga weapons na maaaring magdulot ng sugat, blisters, and burns. So, they can do severe damages pagdating po sa mga tissues, even sa mga mata natin, respiratory system, and even our internal organs. So this chemical weapon agent is used not only to produce blisters but to force enemy troops to wear protective equipment, thereby reducing their efficiency. Blistering agents can contaminate almost anything it touches for long periods of time. Or, blistering agents, isa po ito sa mga examples natin ng persistent na mga chemicals. Then, meron din po tayong tinatawag dito ng mga blood agents. So, meron po tayong existence dito ng mga blood agents katulad ng ngalan din po ng cyanide na I mentioned earlier. Okay? Then, nandito rin po yung possible na mga secondary toxins na nakukuha po natin sa iba't ibang mga materials. Possible po na yung blood agents na to, consider din po natin yung venom, for instance, ng mga snakes. Okay? Na kapag ito po ay napunta sa mismo katawan natin, it can cause coagulation or pagbubuo-buo ng dugo. Kaya yun po yung dahilan kung bakit nga ba merong mga individuals na namamatay dahil sa kagat ng ahas. Okay? So, it can be absorbed or be injected po pagdating sa katawan ng isang individual. Then, there's also the presence po ng mga choking agents. So, ang mga choking agents, majority of them are gases. And, trigger warning, isa nga po ito sa mga nagamit sa mga camps that were utilized during the time of the Holocaust. Okay? So these are some of the choking agents po na ginamit. Chlorine gas, ammonia, okay? Phosgene, organohalides, and even nitrogen oxides. Ilan po ito doon sa mga gases na ginamit during the time or as a form of choking agents. Then, there's also the presence po na tinatawag natin na mga okay, psychotomimetic agents, okay? Psychotomimetic agents. Psychotomimetic agents, these are now the different agents that are now dose dependent na maaari po magdulot ng hallucinogenic effects pagdating sa iba't ibang mga individuals. Maaari po ito magdulot ng hallucinations and even delusions sa mga individuals na to na nilagyan, tinurukan o kaya naman ay binigyan ng mga gamot na ito. Okay? So, ang case po natin pagdating sa mga bagay na to, some of the examples po natin dito are the different types of unregulated drugs, methamphetamine, existence po ng ecstasy, and even LSD. Or, ito na po yung iba't ibang mga chemicals na ginagamit nga po sa drugs. Okay? Or unregulated drugs. So, possible din po kasi sila na gamitin as a form of chemical agents pagdating sa or chemical weapons dito sa mga individuals na to. Okay? So that's the thing when it comes to the existence po ng chemical weapons. So tandaan po natin na ang chemical weapons, one of their very first use was utilized during World War I. While in the case of World War II, there is now the existence of the nuclear weapons. So ang nuclear weapons, they are now designed to release energy in an explosive manner. As a result of nuclear fission, binensyon na nga po natin, paghiwalay, fission, nuclear fusion, or combination of the two processes. So these nuclear weapons release at least a portion of energy to enable particular destruction. So, nuclear weapons could actually be a fission weapon na tinatawag po natin na atomic bombs or mga E-bombs. While yung mga fusion weapons naman po are referred to as thermonuclear bombs, which is commonly known as hydrogen bomb or H-bombs. So, ang case po natin pagdating sa mga nuclear weapons, maaari po silang magkaroon dito ng seconds lang or even in some instances nga po, milliseconds lang na effect pagdating sa isang individual or sa isang lugar after detonation. It can produce blast, thermal radiation, and prompt to release ionizing radiation, causing significant destruction pagdating po sa mga individuals na to. So ano nga po ba itong tinatawag natin na ionizing radiation? So yung ionizing radiation, it is now the capacity of a radioactive material to strip off the electrons na available po sa mga atoms. Kaya po siya tinatawag na ionizing radiation. Gumagawa kasi siya ng mga ions. Kapag na-strip off yung electrons na available sa mga atoms na to, maaari po ito magdulot ng literal na decomposition pagdating sa katawan mo or ikaw ay naaagnas na ng buhay. Okay, so that's the problem when it comes to the existence po ng mga ionizing radiation. So ionizing radiation is actually common po in nature. Okay? And maaari din po ito magdulot ng cancer. So, the delayed effects po ng nuclear weapons could include radioactive fallout and other environmental effect, inflict damage over an extended period ranging from hours to years. So, ang mga nuclear weapons po, they can actually be classified into four. So, halimbawa na lang po dito yung existence po ng pure fission weapons. So, ito pong mga weapons na to uses fission reactions as a source of energy. So, fission bombs, katulad nga po na minention natin kanina, mga atomic bombs, they are assembled in some critical configuration of fissile material into one that is highly supercritical. So, example nga po natin dito ay yung ginamit po na atomic bomb when it comes to the bombing of Nagasaki and Hiroshima in Japan. So, this particular instance is actually an example po ng fission weapon. Then, possible po na mangyari ito through the existence nga po na meron po tayo specific dito na detonator, then the existence po ng conventional explosive until it reaches the uranium-235 na ginagamit po na material or radioactive material pagdating po dito sa case natin. Then, meron din po tayo isang example na existence po ng detonator na meron po ditong beryllium and polonium initiator. So, possible po na uranium-235 or plutonium-239 yung gamitin po pagdating dito sa existence ng mga fission weapons. Okay? Then, for the fusion weapons or combined fission-fusion weapons, na dito po yung existence ng creation ng tinatawag po natin na the Fat Man. Isa po ito sa mga first fission bombs. Po yung na-mention po natin dito sa part na to. Okay, this is the Fat Man na gumagamit po ng plutonium. Meron po mga de-develop na mga nuclear weapons that can actually enhance the destructive effects po ng mga fission weapons sa pamagitan ng fusion reaction. So yun po yung ginagawa ngayon pagdating po sa existence sa mga bagay nito. But wala pa pong encountered na utilization po nito or nagamit pagdating sa war. Then, nandito po yung tinatawag din natin na boosted fission. So, it is now a weapon applied fusion to useful weapons. When the bomb core of this weapon undergoes enough fission, it becomes hot enough to ignite fusion reaction, which accelerates production of intense bursts of high energy that causes a correspondingly intense burst of fissions in the core. So far, katulad po nung na-mention natin kanina, yung combination po ng fission and fusion, so far, quote-unquote, they are not yet utilized po as forms of nuclear weapons. They are just waiting to be utilized. Kaya so far, yung mga na-utilize pa nga lang po natin are the fission bombs. So imagine kung ano nga ba yung possible na implication po if ever man na ito ay gagamitin. And let's never hope, okay? So let's not hope na magamit po itong mga weapons na to. Then, lastly, there's now the existence po ng cobalt and other salted bombs. So these are now nuclear weapons similar to fission weapons. So this bomb uses a non-fissionable blanket of a specially chosen salting isotope. Pwede nga po na ito ay existence ng beryllium, pwede existence po ito ng cobalt, that captures the escaping fusion electrons or neutrons to breed a radioactive isotope that maximizes the fallout hazard from the weapon. Or basically, gumagamit naman na po ito ng mga salts utilizing the uranium-238 naman yung ginagamit nila dito. Okay? Para makapag-release ngayon ng napakatinding explosion. Okay? And the explosion that I cannot imagine kung gaano nga ba kalaki yung mismo magiging diameter po nito. Kasi so far nga po, out of all the nuclear weapons that are existing, ang tanging nagagamit pa lang po dito are the pure fission weapons. So yung ginamit po dun sa um, Bikini Bay, na pinakaunang testing po ng nuclear weapons until yung ginamit nga rin po sa Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombing, all of them are pure fission weapons pa lang. So far, yung pa lang po yung mga indicated natin na utilization ng mga nuclear weapons. So ito po mga to, hindi pa po sila na-utilize so far. And yeah, I am not hoping that they will be utilized anytime soon or anytime at all. Okay, so that's the thing when it comes to the existence po ng mga nuclear weapons. So, nag-indicate nga po sila dito ng paggamit talaga na actual ng mga bomba para ma-eradicate ang mga humans and other life forms on those specific areas. Then, lastly, other than the existence po ng mga nuclear weapons, there's also the presence of the radiological weapons. So, radiological weapons, they are now focusing on the utilization of radiation. Okay? So, na-mention ko na nga po dito na ang radiation po, specifically yung ionizing radiation, it is now stripping off the electrons na available po or nakapaikot or naka-cloud pagdating sa neutron and proton na nucleus po ng isang atom. So, halimbawa na lang po, isa po itong nucleus ng atom, then yung electrons po sila yung umiikot lang po around this particular area. So, yun po yung tinatanggal ni ionizing radiation. So, radiation could actually induce different forms of injuries pagdating sa iba't ibang mga individuals. Meron po tayong tinatawag dito na external irradiation or ito na po yung exposure natin ng buong katawan natin pagdating po sa radiation. Halimbawa na lang, lumabas po tayo sa sikat ng araw, that's actually an example po ng irradiation pagdating sa katawan natin. Kasi yung ultraviolet light, it is a form of radiation na maaari nga pong magkaroon ng implications pagdating sa atin. Kaya nga po, kung pwede, gumamit tayo ng sunblock, wag po tayong magpa-araw kasi nga po, maaari po ito magdulot ng skin cancer. And kapag nagkaroon po tayo ng skin cancer, maaari po ito magdulot pa ng ibang mga sakit pagdating sa mismong katawan natin. Then, there's also the presence po ng contamination with radioactive materials either in solid, liquids, or gaseous form. So, halimbawa na nga lang po dito, na ibibigay ko rin na example mamaya, yung existence po ng Chernobyl fallout. Okay? So, yun nangyari po sa Chernobyl Chernobyl nuclear reactor meltdown that happened in Ukraine. Okay, so isa po yun sa mga indications po natin pagdating sa case na yan. Then, maaari din po magkaroon ng incorporation or the uptake of radioactive materials by the body cells. Halimbawa na lang po dito, nagkaroon dito ng existence ng contamination, nakahawa ka ng radioactive material na ilagay mo sa katawan mo, maaari ka po magkaroon dito ng radioactive poisoning. So, ang radiological weapons po, maaari po sila magdulot dito ng iba't ibang mga conditions sa tinatawag po natin na in general na radiation sickness. So, this case, this image is actually one of the images, surviving images po mula sa nangyaring nuclear meltdown sa Chernobyl. Okay? So, on Chernobyl, it is a power plant na situated po sa Pripyat in Ukraine. Then, one night, nagkaroon po dito ng existence ng tinatawag po natin na testing nila. Then, hindi po naging maayos yung mismong nuclear testing na to that causes the explosion and breakdown dun sa mismong nuclear reactor na to. And this particular nuclear reactor caused the leakage po ng radioactive materials. Yung lahat po ng mga bumbero na nagresponde dun sa mismong nangyari na to, unaware po sila na radiation na pala yung nire-release ng mismong nuclear reactor na to. So it created nuclear burns na literal po na nagfa-fall off yung balat ng mga individuals na to. Okay? Ito po yung sunog na hindi lang po basta-basta parang napasok ka lang, but rather it is a third degree burn dahil literal nag-fall off nga po yung mismong balat and maaari pong magkaroon nga dito ng dehydration for this particular individuals. Then yung iba naman po yung nagkaroon ng radiation sickness katulad ng bata na to, Okay, this radiation sickness naman po ay maaari naman po maging dahilan kung bakit nga ba magkakaroon ng cancer ang iba't ibang mga individuals. So in this case, there's also another image that was actually circulating in Reddit, okay, regarding some of the effects din po ng radiation, poisoning, and radiation sickness pagdating sa isang individual. Yung pinakalitas po yung naging concern po natin is the existence of the Fukushima Daiichi Nuclear Power Plant in Japan. Nagkaroon naman po dito ng earthquake and tsunami noong 2011 sa Japan. So yun po yung pinakalitas na naging concern po natin regarding the existence of a nuclear meltdown. So nag-release din po ito ng radiation na related din po pagdating sa mismong environment natin. So ilan din po ito, yung mga photos at the center are some of the children po that were actually born after the nuclear meltdown na nangyari po sa Ukraine. So, hindi lamang po yung mga individuals na naapektuhan ng mismo nuclear meltdown na to yung magkakaroon po ng epekto pagdating sa kanila. But even yung mga sanggol, pati rin po yung mga bata na pinanganak even after the nuclear meltdown. Kasi persistent po ang radiation na nag-exist pagdating po sa mga bagay na to. Countries of Belarus, Poland, and some other countries po na malapit sa Ukraine, nagkaroon po dito ng maraming mortality regarding children na merong mga sakit, um, nagkaroon ng iba't ibang mga cancerous defects. So ilan po ito dun sa mga naging effects talaga ng radiological meltdown. So kung gagamitin po ito as a form of weapon, mas marami pa yung maaari magkaroon dito ng gantong pinsala pagdating sa katawan. Kasi nga po, radiation could be persistent na even until now, radioactive pa rin po ang mismong dome na existing po sa Chernobyl. So later on, once you're done pagdating po sa discussion na to, you can check the link in description box po ng video na to for some of the videos na maaari nyo pong panoorin regarding the documentaries po na pinagsasabi ko dito. Regarding the existence of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombing, regarding the existence po ng Chernobyl meltdown, and even the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant in US. In Japan. And yung 3 Mile Island na nangyaring issue din po in United States ay ilalagay ko rin po dito sa description box natin. Okay? And for those of you who have watched Grave of the Fireflies or even Oppenheimer, those are some good movies to watch pagdating po sa mga bagay na to. So in conclusion, pagdating po sa lahat ng mga pinagsasabi at lahat ng mga na-discuss natin during the time of the final term when it comes to STS, let's remember na man will always have that big role. Meron po tayo napakalaking involvement when it comes to the history of the earth. Ang dami po natin positive things na nagawa, ang dami din natin negative things na nagawa when it comes to our environment, when it comes to the world itself. Man is constantly evolving and constantly changing the environment na nakapaligid sa atin. We had a lot of ups and downs pagdating po sa mga experiences na to. Napakarami natin na experience ng natural disasters, earthquakes, typhoons, volcanic eruptions, and even our own induced destructions. Katulad na nga lang po ng mga weapons of mass destructions. We utilize different kinds of weapons to inflict harm mula noon hanggang ngayon. Threat, danger, and destruction to one another to achieve their own agenda in which some are gaining wealth and sustaining power and territory. So as one of my preludes pagdating po dito sa discussions natin for the final term for science, technology, and society, tandaan po natin na we have the power to utilize science and technology for good. And we also have that power para gamitin po ito sa masamang bagay. Let's choose to be better. Let's choose to be good citizens, good individuals. This discussions po sa STS is not only for science majors, but this is for everyone. Dahil po tayo ay tao, tayo gumagamit ng siyensya, gumagamit po tayo ng teknolohiya. Lahat po tayo dapat nagamitin po natin ito sa mga mabuting bagay. Tandaan po natin, marami ng matalinong tao sa mundo. Pero kailangan po natin ng mas maraming mabuting tao. Gamitin po natin ang science and technology pagdating po sa kabutihan at hindi po sa kasamaan. We already observed this through World War One, the use of chemical weapons, World War Two, use of nuclear weapons, nuclear fallouts, and even with the conflict po na nangyayari ngayon, a genocide that is existing not only in Gaza but even in Congo and in different parts of the world. All of them are implicated by humans at ang naapektuhan po dito ay mga tao din. At the end of the day, there's only one race pagdating po sa ating mga tao, and that is the existence of human race. Piliin po natin mga maging mabuting tao, suportahan po natin yung mga bagay na para sa buhay ng mga tao. Let's call for ceasefire pagdating po dito sa nangyayari sa iba't ibang bahagi ng mundo. Not only in Gaza, okay, not only in Palestine, but in different parts of the world. Humans implicated in this particular problem, so dapat tayo din po ang lumutas pagdating sa mga bagay na to. We as future educators or ano man ang discipline na kapuntahan po ninyo or kapuntahan natin, at the end of the day, we are all humans. And these are the humans that are suffering the most. These particular individuals. Okay? Let's be on the positive and the right track or right side of history. If this already happened on World War I, bakit ngayon nangyayari pa rin ito when it comes to the existence po ng genocide that's happening in the Palestine? Let's call for the end pagdating po sa mga bagay na to. And let's support different initiatives pagdating sa mga bagay na to. Okay? So, napakarami na mga matatalinong tao. Marami sa mga matalinong tao na to ginamit ng science and technology sa masamang bagay. Well, for us, gamitin naman natin ang science and technology para sa makabuluhan at mas mabuting bagay. Okay? Let's help prosper and let's help the world prosper and other humans prosper. So with this, I hope that you've learned a lot or something at least pagdating po sa mga discussions natin when it comes to science, technology, and society. Maging mabuti makadilalang, maging mabuti makatao. Maging makatao. Okay, so basically this is the end of my discussion when it comes to science, technology, and society. Let's call for ceasefire pagdating po sa mga bagay na to and support positive initiatives. Okay, so thank you everyone and see you sa mga future na ganap po natin when it comes to this class. So thank you for listening and paalam.